We're headed out to the garden. I'm going to give you guys a little tour. Okay, so right here in the front, this is new for this year. I placed all of our herbs right in this front corner because it is the closest to the house and we access the herbs a lot. So I wanted to make sure they were close by. Up here at the front, we planted some chives, and when my sister Amy was here, she helped me to plant pretty much all of these from seed. So we've got the chives here. I have some oregano, and then right here, this is cilantro that's going to seed right now. So I need to do another succession of these, but I really like the flowers and they also bring in some good pollinators. So I'm just keeping those there for now. And then behind this cilantro is the Egyptian walking onions, and those are really cool. They're very like decorative. I've been using like the little onion bulbs for cooking, and the green part right now is a little tough, so we haven't used so much of that. So this right here, this is sorrel, and it's always kind of like a surprise because it's got this really strong lemony lime flavor. This is in the same family as rhubarb, I believe. A little bit goes a long way on the sorrel. Then over here we have some sage. This was also planted from seed, and a couple of them died off, but it looks like I have enough here to last this. Sage, I've had this growing before and it just gets to be like this huge plant and it overwinters here. So this will be plenty. I have 4 plants here. Oh look, there's five plants of the sage. And then right behind that I have some lemon balm. This also will get gigantic and form these big clumps of lemon balm. And behind that is lavender. I just bought this from the store and it looks like it needs a little fertilizer. Then we planted some parsley, which it was in the soil blocks for a really long time because I had brought it out here and then I forgot that it was here. So it sat here for a while and then I finally planted it. So the parsley and the oregano was the same way. It needs a little love, but it will still do fine. I'm sure they'll bounce back eventually. Next, we have the corn. And if you saw my last video, we transplanted this corn from the soil blocks. This is our first time doing that, and I am so happy with how it turned out. We had pretty much every one made it. There may have been like 1 or 2 that didn't transplant very well, but overall we have way better looking corn than we have had in the past. And we did a little experiment and planted some corn behind this, like direct sowed it in an area, and it did not come up well at all. It was really spotty, and I ended up pulling that out and planting flowers there instead. The corn here, we planted 6 rows across, and then we plant 2 rows of corn in each garden bed, and I plant the corn outward. This is actually a rectangle shape, but it's better to plant it in like a square shape because it pollinates each other better, and if you just planted it in a line, you wouldn't get very good pollination, and so that's what happens when the ears don't fill out very well. It just means the corn isn't pollinating very good. We have an area back here where I pulled up the corn and we just planted flowers. Still kind of a mess back here. That's okay. Sometimes it's good to see real life. So I transplanted some sunflowers here, and then we have zinnias. These were also in trays for way too long. You can see they're super yellow. They just need fertilizer. We added some in this already. It just hasn't quite hit yet. These zinnias, I didn't know where to put them, and once I finally decided, they were not in good shape. I've mentioned a few times adding some fertilizer to the soil. I do add some granulated organic fertilizers to the soil, but in addition to that, I also add a soil prebiotic, which helps to boost beneficial microbial activity in the soil. As a result of that, it increases plant health. So that brings us to the sponsor for this video, which is AgriGrow. They make this product called Ultra. I have been using this for the last 2 years. We started a garden on this property 5 years ago with the goal to grow a year's supply of food. And every year we plant about the same amount of plants or row feet in order to get that year's supply of food that we need. So one of the things that I've really been able to see over the past 2 years that I've been applying Ultra Ultra is that our yields keep increasing for the same amount of plants and the same amount of space that I grow every single year. We're getting higher yields. And so I was able to shrink down the garden a little bit this year, which means a little bit less work for me. And I'm also able to increase the amount of cover crops that I grow, which increases the plant health and fertility as well. So I am very happy with the results that we are having with Ultra so far. I also love to add some of this to my seed starting mix. Makes a really big difference there too, and helps to grow these really big, beautiful seed starts, which gets you off on the right foot when you're starting your garden. So I add 1 ounce of Ultra into 1 gallon of water, and then I just water that into the plants either in the early morning or in the late evening, and that's it. I highly recommend Ultra. If you want to try this out, I have a 10% off discount code for you guys linked down in the video description. We're back up at the front, and we're going to come around here and I'll show you this. So this entire row is flowers. You can see we have zinnias here in the front. These ones are in better shape than the ones that I had back there because we took care of these. And then this back here, these are all dahlias that we started from seed, and they are just starting to like take off a little bit, which is good. I'm not like a huge flower grower, but I do really like the way that they look. I love that they bring in the good pollinators. For this next row, I have the strawberries up here. I still need to cut off all of the runners on these strawberries. I was actually letting some go because I want to save some of these plants and use them for next year so that I have more strawberries. The strawberries produce really well for us in the tunnel. The ones out here did not do as good, but I'm assuming that next year will be quite a bit better. These are actually marigolds. I can't remember the name right now, but they're really interesting. I do not think I would grow these again next year because they grow up on this like stalk and they're really tall and they break really easily, which is strange because normally marigolds are very like bushy on the ground, and these ones like have snapped on me a couple times, so I won't be growing those again. But this is the pickling cucumbers. There's a lot of flowers on here. So far I haven't had too much cucumber beetle damage on these, but I have noticed some on the other plants. Once we get over to there, I'll show you what that looks like. It just seems like maybe it's just this variety in particular. I don't know, it did really well last year, and then the other variety that I'm growing, it has a lot more damage from the bugs. You'll probably notice our irrigation is like half set up right now. I've been pulling some out and getting it ready to go. One of the interesting things about where we live is it rains like every day or every other day, like all spring, and then all of a sudden it's like the light switch flips and no rain at all. So we are kind of like at that spot right now, no rain at all, and it got hot all of a sudden. So I'm just like panicking, like trying to set up all this irrigation, but it's not fully set up yet. We'll hopefully get that set up pretty soon. Okay, so up here in the front of this row, we have some echinacea. I put this little bow on there for Cruz because he was clearing some stuff and I wanted him to know that that was not a weed. So it has a bow on it. The rest of this row had some garlic in it, and we harvested the scapes, and then about a week later we pulled out the garlic because it was like really ready to go. It was not my best garlic year ever. The bulbs were not quite as big as in years past, and some of that may have been because we had saved some of our own garlic seed for that. I didn't order any last year, so we just kind of used what we had, and I think that was a big part of why they just didn't get as big as when I ordered the seed. So for the rest of this row, we cleaned it up, and then I had Dax come through here and he used the seeder to plant some black beans. I handed him this jar that I had found in the pantry of black beans, and I thought they were the ones that I saved last year, but I'm thinking now that I am seeing the germination, which is not really that good. I probably handed him a jar that was from, I don't know, like 3 years ago or something, because I saved back some of the seed each year and I didn't label it, so my own fault. We'll have to go through here and reseed a whole bunch of these black beans because they just didn't really come up that good. So just over one row we have our bulbing onions over here, and I have the red ones in the front. I always want to say purple because they look purple to me. They're red. I have some holy basil throughout here. I didn't plant this. This just pops up everywhere in my garden as just volunteers each year. I always keep a couple of those because I like to just eat them because they're good for your mood.
You're already happier.
Yes. This is all the same thing, so I'm just going to show you all from this angle. This is our cowpeas. We pulled out, I had shelling peas here before. So if you hop over this way, we have more sweet corn here. I planted more in the soil blocks because that little experiment that we did over there turned out so good that we redid it over here. It is a lot more work to do it this way, to like sow it all in the soil blocks and then transplant each one. And we're also doing it inside of the weed paper, which is more time. But I have not had to weed at all over there where I had the weed paper down, and that has been so nice. So it's a lot of upfront work, and then you just save a lot of time later on, which I'm all about. So we got these all transplanted, same type of sweet corn here. And Cam says at our house you can never have too much corn, so we're just doing lots of different successions of the corn. So we've got our asparagus here. I had Cam trellis this all up for me because you can see how big and bushy it gets. It would just like flop everywhere if you just let it. So I've had these here for the last 3 years-ish, and then once they grow up we just string lines around them. The first year I tried to like Florida weave between them, and you don't need to do that. You just need to do a big string around them and just hold them in there. Over here, these are weeds, and I get a lot of them here in this particular area. This is where I had my strawberries last year, so it's still having trouble with some of these like weeds just keep popping up through here. So I'm gonna have to cover crop this until we get a handle on the weeds. I did plant some snap peas in here and they did really well. Snap peas, snow peas, we got a really good harvest from them. Now it's too hot, so I need to pull these out. I'm planning on moving this trellis over to where the cowpeas are, and then we will do a cover crop here over this area just to kind of try and get it under control. Right here we have our experiment that we're doing with the wheat. It is getting really close to being dry, and then we're gonna cut it and harvest it. I still have some research to do on how we're gonna go about doing that since we don't have a combine here, and this is just a small scale little experiment that we're doing, but I'm really excited about it. The only thing that has been happening is I have seen a lot of birds coming through here and having a snack of the wheat. So I think there's enough to go around, but we may get a little bit less than what was originally here because the birds really like this stuff. So here we have our potato patch, and so far they've been doing really well this year. We haven't had any of the blister beetles that we normally have on our potatoes. That may be because we haven't laid down any hay yet. Usually we lay down the hay as soon as we hill, and I wanted to just wait a little bit to see if there was a correlation, and so far we haven't had any. So there may be something happening there, and we'll lay down some hay here pretty soon, just because if I don't lay anything down, the weeds will start to take over. We have had some potato beetles on these, which is kind of a new thing for us. I saw a few last year, and this year we've had quite a bit more. I knew that was going to happen because, you know, once you see a couple and then they know your address, they find you again. So we've got a lot more this year, but I've just been going through, I put them in like a cup of soapy water, and I know what the eggs look like, so I'll take those off, and then we get the babies and stuff off these plants too, and it's managed. There's still some on here, but they're under control now, at least. So back behind, ooh, it's like echoey in here. Back behind the potatoes, we've got our tunnel here, and this stuff has done so good. Everything in the tunnels just grows so well. I wish I had all my garden in tunnels, because it's like magic. Everything just grows really well in it. I have my watermelon here, not mine, but our watermelon. It's really Cam that loves the watermelon, and I love the cantaloupe type melons. And then Cam has his hatch chilies, and those are huge. He planted those really early on, and being in this tunnel, they just love like the heat and everything about it. Usually by this time of year, I will cover my tunnels with shade cloth, and I'm kind of on the fence this year as to whether or not I'll cover this one, just because I have so many heat-loving crops in here. We got some new zipper doors for this tunnel, but I haven't put them on. Cam hasn't put them on yet because we just haven't had time. But it's actually been really nice for like airflow in here, so we may not need the shade cloth. I'm not really sure. Once we get up really hot, sometimes it can have a negative effect. So we're just gonna play it by ear and see what happens. The weed paper has held up really well so far. We only have like a couple little weeds poking up on the side. Johnson grass always is a problem, but I'm really happy with how everything in here has turned out. This is our second garden block area. This area last year was, I'd sown a cover crop here, but there was a lot of weeds in it. And then I did another cover crop over the winter time, and then we tarped that, and now we have the mulch down in the tomatoes, and I am really happy with how this whole area looks. We have a couple like perennial weeds popping up here and there, but overall it's so much better than it has been in years past. This is Dax's garden area, and I am going to let him tell you about that.
Here's my garden. I have tomatoes, basil, and some more tomatoes. I have no clue what the variety is. This is a green zebra. I think this is called a black beauty. More tomatoes, purple basil, watermelon. I also don't know what variety it is.
It's going to be a surprise, huh?
Yeah. There's a random head of lettuce. Down here I have jalapenos. Don't get mad at me if I pronounce this wrong. These are Italian pepperoncini.
I kind of got a little bit of the labels mixed up. I'm pretty sure this is some cherry tomatoes here. This is Kellogg's breakfast. Over here, this is cherries. All the way down here, I have some more Kellogg's breakfast, just one right here. I'm pretty sure this is sunrise bumblebee. This is like a zebra type. Back here is some more Kellogg's breakfast. And over here, I have some poppies. This one, I don't know what happened to that one. Here's my zinnias, and this is a eggplant.
These are the tomatoes that I planted. These are all of my Roma tomatoes. All of these are for canning, preserving stuff. We make the ketchup, spaghetti sauce, pretty much everything under the sun with these tomatoes, so we need a lot of them. I may actually do one more succession of these just to make sure that we're good. All of the rest of the tomatoes that we planted, they are more fresh-eating tomatoes. We've got like cherry and slicing tomatoes, and Dax did like a lot of fun tomatoes. Those I don't preserve because they have a very high water content, a lot of seeds, so it just makes more work when it comes to preserving. And then back here, we have our sweet potatoes. These I grew from our last year's sweet potatoes and then transplanted them. And then I didn't have enough, so I just waited until they grew some more. And so this is like the second little succession of them. And I'm just gonna keep going down this row and probably also plant some over there if they just keep growing. We'll just keep going with the sweet potatoes. This is all, I think it's Honey Patch winter squash. They make these little tiny baby butternuts. We planted these last year and they taste so good. They have a very smooth texture that's, I don't know how to describe it, a little bit stronger, sweeter flavor. I really like them a lot. I actually saved the seeds for those. We have some like dill interplanted in here. These are Long Island cheese pumpkins. I have seen some squash bugs on these already, and then we have the cucumber beetles on these too, which is not good, but hopefully they will push past that problem. It's not like they're coming in like huge amounts, but I mean, I can see a couple on here even now. I'm watching for the squash bugs. We always use duct tape to just get under the leaves and get any eggs. Should probably actually check these right now. Oh yeah, see, there's some right there. So that I need to come through here with the duct tape and then get these off. So that's what I am watching for. And unfortunately, I found some. But it's actually a good thing because it's all about prevention with the squash bugs. Like the sooner you can get in there and just make sure you're getting like all of the squash bug eggs that you see, the better off they will be. Like eventually we do get to the point where I can't look under every single leaf because this becomes like a big pumpkin patch area, but I try and get whatever I can see, and it's really important in the beginning especially to get them off of there. Down here at the end, this is all lemon squash. This is a summer squash. I don't even plant zucchini anymore because we just have such a huge problem with squash bugs, and I'm not spraying anything, even organic sprays. So I just have to plant varieties that are resistant to the squash bugs, and this lemon squash is resistant, and so I grow it every year. Last year I tried to see if I could get away with growing some zucchini, and we grew it. We got about 20 fruits off the plant, and then it was done, completely dead, killed off. So this is just what we have instead. We just make do with it. I do like zucchini a lot, but I also really like this lemon squash too. So this works because it grows well in our area, and then we're able to actually get a good harvest. We get it like all summer long. I'm gonna show you the garden that's inside of the tunnel next. Right here, this first row in the tunnel is strawberries. Same kind of thing in here. We've got them going all over the place. This is the time to cut off all of those runners. I'm actually gonna clip down the plants too, and then I'll save whatever runners have rooted, because once we get our new tunnel set up, I wanna transplant some of those in there. So right here in the front of this row, we have the lettuce. We've been harvesting some of this here and there, but this lettuce is so good in the heat. I have not put a shade cloth on this tunnel yet either, and I am going to put one on here because it does get really hot. And once it gets to like 80 or 85 degrees consistently, that's when I put the shade cloths on the tunnel, because it'll get too hot in here. So especially for lettuce and stuff like that, we want the shade cloth on, and even things like the tomatoes, they will actually do a little bit better with the shade cloth as well. Right behind that lettuce, we have our green beans here. This variety is called Jade, and come closer and you can see these little baby green beans coming. We're gonna have so many. This is just like a very small area, and it is prolific. I think we're gonna have a really good harvest because these are grown in the tunnel. And yeah, they just don't have all of the problems that things grown outside of the tunnel have. So like one of the things that we deal with when we're growing outside, this is just like specific to our area, is that we just get like these torrential rains, just like wash out the soil, washes out all of the nutrients that are there, especially if you don't have anything covering that. And it is just like a constant struggle. So it is, that's why like things in here, they look so much better, because they're just not getting washed. They didn't get washed out this spring the way that everything else did. So, ooh, there's some strawberries here.
So how long have we been eating strawberries out of this patch?
Since March. Yeah, so it's been 3 months. The ones in the front, they were the first to bear because they were grown from plugs, and these ones in the back, these were grown bare root. So they're actually bearing fruit right now. And normally for like the first year bare root plant, you wouldn't want them to produce fruit. But because these are in the tunnel, I just let them go. And they're doing a lot of fruit, and they're doing just fine. And yeah, this fruit is actually huge. This variety is Early Glow, and the one in the front, that's
Not Chandler, that's a blueberry.
yeah. What's the one in the front?
Red Delicious?
No, it starts with a C. It's, I can't remember the name. Oh well. I'll put some information in there when I look that up. This is where we have our slicing cucumbers. Cam's gonna set up a little trellis for them. Right next to them, we've got some ginger here that's popping up here and there. Some of the plants didn't come up as well, but we're just take what we can get here. They really like the tunnel. they don't like so much sun. So I'm hoping these cucumbers grow fast and shade them out because they kind of like a part shade sort of situation. And it's a little bit on the sunny side for them right now. Over here we have our tomatoes. We have a lot going on in this row. So I planted the tomatoes with basil back here. So this part has done really well. We're actually still in the process of trellising these up. This is a different trellising method than I have done before, and I'm super excited about it. I'm gonna like go more into depth on how it works at some point once there's more to show, because at this point like you can't see the process really of what's going on and why this is like so cool. So we're still getting these back tomatoes like pruned and clipped up and stuff. I planted lettuce, interplanted some lettuce with the tomatoes, which did really well. Now it's going to seed, so I started to cut some of it back. You can see it on the other side. I just chopped and dropped it there, and I'll probably do the same for over on this side because it's not good anymore. It's bitter. So up here we have the carrots that we interplanted with the tomatoes, and these are also really ready to harvest. Like we need to get all of these out right now, and then we will preserve some of them, and then we'll put some of them in bags in the refrigerator, and we'll use these in our preserving over the summer. Like sometimes when I'm making soup and stuff, it calls for carrots, and usually the carrots that are grown midsummer, they get kind of like woody and bitter. So that's why I like to have these ones that I grew in the spring. They have a lot better taste, and we just use those instead. And I'll grow another succession of carrots more towards the fall when it's a better time for them. This entire row is all sweet peppers that I think varying varieties. We planted some, I had Cruz plant some for me, and then some of them didn't make it, so we just transplanted a couple more of a different variety. So the peppers are loving the tunnel because it's so hot in here. We made it just in time. It's getting dark now, so that wraps up the garden tour, and I will show you guys again next month some of the progress that we're making in the garden. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch and join me for this, and we'll see you on the next one.